This one's good. If you look at this hole, somebody cross-threaded the spark plug. And so when they cross-threaded the spark plug, it raised hell inside the engine. Maybe pieces of it came through, but the valve definitely got hit with something. What it was doing was it was actually burning the sides of the spark plug all the way up. The whole side melting spark plugs in there. Because of the cross thread, it didn't make a good seal. And I don't know what came first, the chicken or the eggs, but I think that the mechanic actually did this by cross-threading a spark plug. It's an aluminum engine. You should use a torque wrench when you put in a spark plug and not over torque a plug. And of course you never put spark plugs in on a hot engine, because then everything goes to hell. Well, so you leave it cool down, but it's hard to exactly. Hopefully if I go really slow, maybe it'll focus and you can see the degree of the cross threading. What a mess. There's no way to force this thing to actually. So that's the reason for the new head. And while I was at it, then the timing chains that were in there didn't have any markings on them. I don't know if they come that way from the factory, if that's factory original, but I think the timing chains were changed. And I think it was very recent, because there's no wear on the guides, and the car has 100,000 miles. You'd think you'd see some wear. So my story is this: they did a whole timing thing, figuring that the car ran bad because of the timing was bad, and then they put on new chains, and in the process of putting on new chains, they put in new spark plugs. Absolutely ruined the engine. And then thought maybe that the $3,000 timing chain job that they did, they had made a mistake and got it off by one tooth on one of the gears. Instead, somebody lost their temper on this car, because when I bought it, there was this big dent in the back quarter panel, and it wasn't scratched or anything. Obviously somebody had pounded on the back quarter panel of the car with their fists. And I imagine, just putting a story together, what I imagine is that pounding on the car with their fist was after they spent $3,000 and the car didn't run right, because they probably had somebody put it together and then had a goofus mechanic put new spark plugs in, and the whole car got wrecked, and they couldn't figure out why. And then when I bought it, they told me it had electrical problems that they couldn't straighten out. Well, the electrical problems were that the spark plug had burnt out because of a bad valve, and because they had cross-threaded the corresponding spark plug somehow or another. So I don't know if, when I got it finally and I got it home, of course it didn't start anymore, because not in the process what they did was they screwed up the security system so badly that the car locked itself and wouldn't let anybody start it or even run it. And then they left the hood open for a while, so there was some rust inside the piston, so the piston rings were seized, I think. So the starter would not rotate it. I had to free up the engine. I looked at the inside of the cylinders when it was apart, and they all looked good. So it's just a matter of that when they put it back together, they actually left the damaged spark plug out. When I finally got the security system straightened out and put a spark plug in there, I realized it didn't tighten down right at all, and it was running real funky when I first started it up, and then it just progressively got worse. So I think somebody just got frustrated with the whole car and the amount of money they spent on this car, and it was sold as some kind of an insurance write-off. It's now got a rebuilt title, but the rest of the car, the Carfax has it going back to a dealer, and the accident report on the car said it could drive away from the scene of the accident, so it wasn't hurt that badly if they drove it home. But the insurance company just wrote the whole mess off. So I bought it more or less for scrap, a high scrap value. But I have had to put money into it that I didn't expect to put into it. I expected to straighten out a security computer issue. And even this back cylinder looks like it cleaned up pretty well. So I'm going to start putting the head back on. No damage to the heads here. And even this back cylinder looks like it cleaned up pretty well. So I'm going to start putting the head back on. No damage to the heads here. And even this back cylinder looks like it cleaned up.